had an affair with his boss, and at a work party, he forced my hubby to agree to a vacation. But then, I have been rethinking all my life decisions after what happened. One thing is certain, this story will be a lifelong trauma. Hello, Olive. I know this might sound like another of those stories where the wife had been having an affair behind her husband's back. This is more of what the husband did after he found out about it. This is not something I'm writing to make my actions seem right. I'm just here ranting and venting out about everything that went wrong after one impulsive decision of mine. My name is Kaylee, 29, female. I'm a super ambitious person and always strive for something more in life than what I already have. I met my now husband Mark, 31, male, during one of the conferences where he was presenting. I was impressed with him right away and wanted to get to know him more. His profile and designation attracted me more than his persona, and I persuaded him and finally got married. Mark and I have been married for 3 years now with no kids. We are both ambitious individuals and wanted to focus on our careers for at least 5 years, and then maybe think about starting a family. We had our priorities straight, but as you know, life is always unplanned. It throws shit at you and expects you to deal with it in your own way. One day, I was fired from my job for being rude to one of my subordinates. This was a big setback for my professional career. I told them that I had recently been thinking of quitting and looking for another job with a higher pay and a better environment. I knew that this would make me feel much better than them kicking me out. Mark had a work event that he had to attend, and I decided to tag along to network and find a prospective job offer for myself. I knew that networking at events like these could potentially lead to new opportunities, so I made sure to bring plenty of business cards and practice my elevator pitch beforehand. As the night went on, I found myself engaging in meaningful conversations with several professionals in my desired field. Mark had put in a word to his boss, Sean, with my profile and work experience. I had been called in to an interview with Sean. I knew that I had smitten Sean in the party and knew that he kept staring at my ass the entire time. There was a sexual tension between us during the entire party, and I tried my best to keep avoiding him as I wanted Mark to get this promotion that he had been waiting for such a long time. However, Sean's interest in me seemed to have carried over into the interview, making me feel uncomfortable. I made sure to focus on my qualifications and experience to prove that I was the right fit for the job. I did not get the job as expected, but I was offered a deal by Sean, which I could not refuse. Sean and I had an agreement that we would continue living with our spouses but enjoy spending time with each other. In return, I would get the post as his assistant director and would directly report to him. It was a profitable offer for me, as I would get to enjoy all the luxuries while also being married to Mark. Sean's proposal allowed me to have the best of both worlds, financial security and companionship with him, all while maintaining my marriage to Mark. It was a tempting offer that I ultimately decided to accept, despite the moral implications. We were invited to a party by Sean. It was a work event, so both Mark and I had no other choice but to attend. Sean had secretly sent me a dress that he wanted me to wear for the party. It was a little too revealing for my taste, but I knew what Sean had in mind when he sent the dress. It had easy access, and I knew right away that we would be making out in the toilet during the party. The thoughts of us making out made me even more excited for the party. Sean had forced Mark to attend his yacht party over the weekend. After a lot of reluctance, Mark agreed to be there. It was just a disguise party for Sean to spend some time with me. I could not hide my smirk as I knew what Sean was doing here. I made sure to pack all the sexy swimwear as I wanted to make sure that I don't disappoint Sean. I was determined to make the most of the situation and enjoy myself, regardless of Sean's intentions. As the party approached, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with curiosity about what the weekend would bring. Things got out of hand as we made our way into the pool. I completely forgot about Mark being around. Sean started fondling with my thighs under the water, and I could see that it was arousing me. I tried to subtly push his hands away, but he persisted. Eventually, I had to firmly tell him to stop and remind him that Mark was nearby. He took Mark to the bar and made him busy with a few drinks and came back to continue where we left. I realized that Sean was determined to make things difficult. He leaned closer to me and whispered that my choice of bikini was making it difficult for him to keep his hands to himself. I playfully splashed some water at him and pushed him away. Sean chuckled and playfully splashed water back at me, his persistence evident in his eyes. Despite my attempts to maintain boundaries, I knew I would have to be more assertive in order to prevent any further advances. Everyone witnessed our passionate kisses and much more that was happening in the pool. Since he was the boss and it was his party, no one had the guts to call him out. The atmosphere was charged with tension as we continued to push the boundaries of appropriate behavior. It was clear that his position of power allowed him to act without consequences. The uncomfortable silence that followed only added to the awkwardness of the situation as we all tried to pretend like nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. Despite the unease, no one dared to speak up and risk ruining the mood of the party. Mark was at the bar drowning himself in alcohol when someone asked him to come and see what show his wife was putting up. He probably thought that I was drunk and creating a ruckus and nothing more. When he came, what he witnessed had left him shocked. The glass slipped from his hand as he couldn't believe what he was seeing. His wife awfully close, almost on top of his boss. The sight of his wife being so intimate with his boss was enough to make Mark question everything he thought he knew about their relationship. The betrayal cut deep, leaving him feeling blindsided and unsure of what to do next. When we came to our senses, we could see all eyes on us. Sean sheepishly pushed me away and walked out of the pool as if it was not a big deal. I could feel Mark's eyes on me seething with anger. I collected myself and made sure that I was covered properly before I exited the pool and slowly made my way towards our room. I could play the conversation that was going to take place in my head once Mark was back in the room. I was dreading it and started thinking of excuses that I could make out of it. I knew I had to face the music and confront the situation head-on, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of impending conflict. As I walked back to our room, my mind raced with possible explanations and apologies that I could offer Mark when he finally returned. I thought that the best excuse would be to convince Mark that Sean had blackmailed me with his job and promotion, and I had no choice but to oblige to his demands. I felt that would be the safest way out of it. To some extent, Mark did look convinced, as it was not something new that Sean had done, and he was aware of Sean being capable of such tactics. However, deep down I knew that lying to Mark was not the right solution and that I needed to come clean about my involvement with Sean. It was a difficult decision to make, but I knew it was the only way to truly resolve the situation and rebuild trust with Mark. After a few weeks, things had become normal between me and Mark. I tried to be extra careful with my fling with Sean so that Mark does not know that something is off. I made sure to keep my interactions with Sean discreet and limited to avoid any suspicion from Mark. Despite the guilt, I couldn't help but enjoy the excitement of the forbidden relationship. I was addicted to the luxurious life that I could enjoy in Sean's company. I knew I was playing a dangerous game, but the thrill of it all was too intoxicating to resist. However, deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that this secret affair would eventually come crashing down around me. I was living a blissful life, balancing my marriage with Mark and my affair with Sean. I had no idea what was coming my way. Little did I know, both relationships would come crashing down when Mark discovered the truth about my affair. The fallout was devastating and left me questioning everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. Sean had started assigning important tasks to Mark to check his loyalty. Mark had been doing exceptionally well, so both I and Sean assumed that Mark was back to being his old self. Mark was organizing an important event for Sean. It was very essential to get this deal, as Sean had put everything on the line for it. Mark knew that the success of this event could make or break Sean's empire. Little did I know that he was just acting to make Sean trust him again. Mark was meticulously planning every detail, knowing that Sean's future depended on the outcome. He was unaware that his efforts were all part of a deceptive scheme to regain Sean's trust. On the day of the event, all the important people of the industry were present. Sean looked nervous as he knew what was at stake. As the event progressed and we moved to the presentation of how well Sean had planned and organized this project, Mark did not waste his time to take his spot to go ahead with the presentation. Sean was called on stage to unravel the poster of his grand project. Once he unveiled it, he was overwhelmed by the reaction from the crowd, but when he looked back at it, he realized that it was not due to surprise, but of horror. The poster was of me and Sean almost nude in a very derogatory position. The room fell silent as everyone processed what they were seeing. Sean's face turned pale as he realized the extent of the betrayal by his supposed loyal employee, Mark. The atmosphere quickly shifted from excitement to tension as the audience waited for Sean's response. Sean's wife walked up to the stage and slapped him. She then walked up to me and tore my dress, which she knew was given to me by Sean. I felt as if I was being forced to be naked in front of everyone. Mark took the mic and asked people to take their seats as there was more to come. The presentation began. There were more pictures and videos where Sean and I kept making fun of our respective spouses for being so dumb as not to catch on with our betrayal. It was an embarrassing situation for both Sean and I, as we were both being called out by Mark in front of a huge crowd. I knew that getting back on track would be very difficult from this situation. There was no comeback that I could think of. I tried to slowly slip away, but then Mark made sure that there was a spotlight on both Sean and I so that we did not escape the embarrassment we were facing. The humiliation was palpable as Mark's words echoed in the room, leaving Sean and I feeling exposed and ashamed. The weight of our actions hung heavy in the air, making it clear that rebuilding trust would be an uphill battle. This party was a big failure and a very difficult situation for me to get back from. Everyone from the industry was present and knew about the affair Sean and I had been having, and moreover, I knew that finding a job after this was going to be way too difficult. The gossip and judgmental looks were overwhelming, making me feel like I had nowhere to hide. It was clear that my professional reputation had been tarnished, and rebuilding it would be a daunting task. The presentation finally stopped, and I felt a sense of relief that it was all over. Maybe I can now get a chance to slip away far from the crowd. As I started taking big steps, Mark pulled me over and stopped me. He whispered that he had more surprises coming my way, so I just could not leave yet. Feeling a mix of curiosity and dread, I reluctantly followed Mark back towards the crowd, wondering what other surprises he had in store for me. The thought of facing more scrutiny and attention made my heart race with anxiety. He announced that I was his beautiful wife who had been cheating on me for a very long time. He already knew about it and wanted me to come clean, but every time he asked me about it, I always brushed it off or changed the topic. Even after being caught red-handed, I felt no shame and guilt and continued to cheat. He knew that letting me go would be too easy and wanted to take away what was important for me, which was my pride. He decided to expose me in front of the people in front of whom I feel like an overachiever, humiliating me in the worst possible way. His goal was to make sure I never forgot the pain I caused him. I knew that his plan was clearly working. I could not look in the eye to my colleagues going further. He pushed me on the stage and told me that he had already filed for divorce and does not need to deal with me anymore. He was done and was willing to move forward in his life. Just like that, he walked away and people started whispering to each other, looking at me with either disgust or lust, and that was a cue that the party was over. I started searching for Sean, who was busy pleading with his investors to not walk away and try to listen to his investment plan. They all just brushed him off and walked off. Sean came to me and I was expecting him to pick me up and help me through to the room. Instead, he took a glass of wine, threw it on my face, and said that this was all my fault and walked away. I was all alone in that big room on the floor, drenched in wine and guilt. I felt a mix of shock and betrayal as I watched him leave without a second glance. The silence in the room was deafening, amplifying my feelings of isolation and confusion. I probably sat there till the cleaners asked me to leave. I still could not believe what just happened. It all happened too quickly that it felt like a dream. I slowly made my way to the hotel room booked by Sean. Thankfully, it was still available. I went and sat in the bathroom revisiting the events. I then pulled out my phone and decided that I need to make myself heard just to keep me sane. I might go mad if I don't share this with anyone. Maybe writing things down will help me overcome this situation. So here I am, typing away still in my wine-covered dress, looking for some perspective in life. I know that many of you are going to judge me and tell me that I deserve everything that has happened to me. I don't blame you guys for it, as I know that I have been unfaithful and wrong in my actions. I am just here to tell my story. Thank you everyone for taking the time out to listen to my long rant about how my life changed due to my own mistakes. I would be happy to take up any suggestions that could help me pick up my life from here on. Update. It's been a month since the party fiasco. Mark and I had been divorced. It was very swift, and as expected, he submitted proof of my infidelity, so there was no mercy from the judge. I lost everything just like that. I did not have a job or a house or a family to go to. My family had disowned me after they knew about my actions. I had been trying to get a job, but all the major companies wanted nothing to do with me after the reports of my affair, which Sean circulated in all the newspapers, and my popularity with my divorce. I don't blame them, as I would have done the same to not tarnish my company's reputation. I tried reaching out to Sean, but he yelled and abused me for ruining his life. He was blamed for going bankrupt and losing everything that he had built all his life. His wife had divorced him and took 80% of his wealth away, and as the investment didn't go through, he had no money to pay back for everything he put online. It was clear that there was no way he wanted me in his life. I could now clearly see the difference between Sean and Mark. Sean had always been selfish in his life. He never cared about his wife or his relationship, while Mark always valued my feelings and our relationship. I misjudged him for being a coward. As days go by, I miss my marriage with Mark and the relationship we shared. I know that there is no way in hell that Mark would want to go back in his life after everything that I had done. I could see that I had ruined my life with my own impulsive and lustful decisions. I still wanted to give it one last shot before I completely shut the idea of not even trying. I mustered up the courage and drove to the apartment which I once shared with Mark. I was hopeful that maybe if he was still living here, then he would want me back. I got into the elevator and was greeted by a young, beautiful girl. She was bubbly and started talking right away. She told me that she was going to meet her boyfriend at his place for the first time and was very excited. I told her that I was happy for her and wished her luck. As the elevator stopped, she got off along with me. I dropped my bag, and when I picked it up, I saw the girl hug Mark and walk in the house with him. I could not move for some time. I just froze and did not know how to react. I was in disbelief that Mark had moved on, and that too within a month. I stood there in shock, feeling a mix of hurt and betrayal. It was hard to process that Mark had already found someone new so quickly after our breakup. I knew that I had no right to feel this way. I should be happy for him and try to move on. I was the one who cheated on him, but seeing him with someone else made me feel like he was the one cheating. I cannot describe the feeling that I was going through, but it was not pleasant. I drove back home and started shattering everything that I could get my hands on. I could not understand the extent of hurt Mark felt when he came to know about my affair. This is what it feels like to be betrayed and hurt. It was not his fault, but I couldn't help but feel sorry for myself. How could he have found someone and moved on so quickly? Rage took over me, and I decided to go back and confront him. In a haste, I drove back and rang the bell until he finally opened. He, of course, did not want to let me in and asked me what I wanted. I told him that I wanted to talk, but he kept telling me that he had nothing to say and asked me to leave. I pushed him anyway and walked inside. I saw the girl and introduced myself as his wife. Mark came back and said ex-wife and that I could leave. Feeling a mix of anger and hurt, I demanded an explanation for his actions. Mark simply shrugged and said he had moved on, leaving me stunned and speechless. He told me that he doesn't owe me anything and that I had no business staying here. He did not want to call security or the cops and wanted me to walk out without any drama. I fell on the floor and wept, asking Mark to forgive me and give me another chance to start over. Mark asked me to finish crying and leave once I was done. He wanted nothing to do with me and had been happier ever since I was out of his life. That made my heart break into a million pieces, and I started wailing heavily. Mark took his girlfriend to the bedroom and locked it. I had never seen Mark be so cold towards anyone. Perhaps my betrayal had made him into a bitter person. I sat there for hours crying, thinking about everything and regretting my actions. It was almost night when I walked out of there and made my way towards my car. I sat there not knowing what to do or where to go. I suddenly felt so lonely and aimless in life. I had everything that I wanted, but my greed for more snatched away everything from me. I started scrolling my phone to see if there was someone I could talk to. There was not a single person I could share my feelings with. I started weeping alone as I knew that I deserved to be alone. The next day, I decided to make major changes in my life and become a better person. I know that this is going to be a difficult path, but I will try. I am trying to ask for forgiveness from my family for my actions and ask them to take me back. If I have enough courage, I will ask Mark for forgiveness as well. I know that it might not happen overnight, but I am willing to make that effort and try to make things right. I'm not sure how many of you actually believe that I will do all of this and succeed. I hope you guys are with me on this journey, as your comments and positive remarks give me hope that not all is lost. I just want to make better decisions in life and not be too greedy, hoping for a fresh start and a brighter tomorrow.